We are here overlooking our backyard, but we're here to talk about our trip that we got back from a couple of days ago. It was to Earl Rowe Provincial Park.
We're recording from our dining room table because we had a small technical problem when we sat down to record in the park. So here we are, problems sorted out.
It is May of 2026, and we were at Earl Rowe for like Monday to Friday stay. So that's 5 days, 4 nights. This is our first time at the park.
We were in the Fletcher's Field Campground, site 227.
This was an odd trip. We had all kinds of weather. When we arrived, it was very hot.
Over 30.
To the extent that we did not feel like eating outside. We escaped to a restaurant the second night just to be in the air conditioning. After that, we had a thunderstorm and the weather changed drastically. And we had some of the coldest camping we've ever had, not during the day, but at night. It got very cold in particular, frost warnings in effect. So despite all that, we had a good time at Earl Rowe Provincial Park.
This was our shakedown trip for the 2026 season. And when we arrived, not only was it hot, we thought, isn't it odd that there's so much campfire smoke at 2:30 in the afternoon? Mm-hmm. And then we realized it wasn't campfire smoke. It was billowing clouds of yellow pollen from white fir trees, of which there were many, both billowing clouds and white fir trees.
Yes, particularly in the area where we were camping. That trend continued pretty much for our entire stay. It tapered off after we had the big rainfall, but it was still there. The good news about yellow pollen from conifers is that it's not the kind that makes you allergic, but it does make a heck of a mess.
Absolutely every surface, didn't have to just be horizontal ones. Ceilings, walls, inside of everything, bright yellow.
Which was also made this trip strange. So we did very little eating outside. We left the tablecloth packed away because it would just get covered in yellow dust. We left a lot of things just packed away to protect them from constant cleaning. But you know what? It was all fine.
It was too hot and dusty or too cold and dusty to eat outside very much on this trip. And neither were we super tempted to do anything about campfires.
It was either too hot to want to sit by a fire or too cold to want to sit by a fire.
The bugs weren't terrible. There were times when they got a little bad, not too bitey.
I thought the bugs were what you'd expect for this time of year. We did manage to go on the first day we were there to the park store. We walked over to get some ice cream and check out the store. Good thing, because that was the last day that it was open, being a Monday, Victoria Day, long weekend. They were otherwise closed. I assumed during peak season they would be open during the week. But they had a pretty good park store. Not a lot in the way of groceries, a lot of supplies, camp supplies and souvenirs. And there was ice cream, which was very good. And the ice cream was from Kawartha Dairies, which was always great.
And interestingly, their small consisted of 3 modest-sized scoops. You can mix and match your flavors amongst those 3 scoops, so that was kind of interesting. And small, absolutely all you would want, and they were about $5 each out the door.
So good deal. The other thing we did to escape the heat, besides eating ice cream, the second night, it really was oppressively hot, and there was a thunderstorm coming, a big thunderstorm right at dinner time. So that's when we decided to go into town for something to eat. We ate at a very nice restaurant called Gust at G-U-S-T. The S has an accent over it, which makes it Gust instead of Gust. And we
the gust was outside the restaurant.
Yes, we timed it perfectly, avoiding the rain. We had appetizer, main course, dessert, drinks, the whole 9 yards, just to be in the air conditioning and out of the storm. And it worked out very well. It was a great restaurant.
We should mention that we tried to have a quick little look around Alliston, which is the town adjacent to the park. I thought we were in Rock Ridge, the second one, built to fool the bad guys, and we were the bad guys, because nothing was open.
Even things that are normally open on Tuesday, of which there are not many, were closed because they stayed open on the holiday Monday, and so the employees were given the day off. So we spent a fair bit of time driving around Alliston looking at the things that we might have seen had they been open.
Which they were not.
Note the Norman Bethune House, which I was very interested to see, is geared to really tours only.
So let's talk about some of the other facilities in the park. They do rent some canoes. I'm not sure what the details are. The rentals are only available during peak season. We had a look at the lake, and I don't know that I'd want to be paddling on the lake because it'd be great going downwind, but coming back upwind, a lot of work.
One nice thing about the park is its proximity to Alliston, so anything you need to buy, groceries or otherwise, is readily available within 10 minutes tops.
More comfortable socks, whatever you need.
Yes.
It's all there.
Which Joel did need.
As long as you aren't looking to go to something that's for tourists, because that was all closed.
Firewood and ice are available as usual near the
Park store.
Park store.
And I imagine you could get it from the gate when the park store is closed.
Mm-hmm. The comfort stations in the park are the modern type, though they're not brand new, but they are modern. I found them quite clean and well kept. Our site was nice and close to a comfort station, which was very handy.
It was the ideal distance from a comfort station.
Yeah.
Far enough
That
that you don't have to get a triptych or plan rest stops on the way to the comfort station, or like at Turkey Point where you had to walk to the next campground to find a comfort station. Nothing like that, just around the corner, not too far to go, but far enough that you're not aware of the comfort station on your site, which is always good.
And we did have showers in the comfort station. I thought the showers were quite good.
Yep, everything good that way.
We checked out Kaibos, even though we didn't have to use them, being so close to the comfort station. And they're all the pit toilet type, but again, in a modern building. I didn't see any sinks or soap, but they did seem to have lighting.
The fill and dump are a little bit unusual in this park. So there are two places where you can fill and dump. The park has two campgrounds, the West Campground and the Riverside Campground. And in the West Campground, there is a little loop. It's not near the entrance. It's actually kind of at the back of the Fletcher's Field campsite. It's a little loop, dump, then fill, one lane, no bypassing, anything like that. Hoses threaded, very handy, and everything was working fine. On the Riverside Campground, they have an odd arrangement. There's a circle. You can't drive around the circle, but you can drive half of the circle from the north to the south and half from the south to the north. And if you're coming in from the north, then there is a dump and then a fill. And if you're coming in from the south, there's a fill and then a second fill. So if you're thirsty, this is a good park to go to. Lots of places to fill your fresh tank. Only a couple of places to dump.
The cell service at the park, again, we're just on Rogers. It was fine, not great. We could get internet. It was sometimes very slow, more often than not, at least at our campsite. It was slow, but it was usable. And of course, calls were no problem at all.
The roads were pretty decent, not pristine, but certainly pretty serviceable.
Mostly paved on
the main road's paved. In the campgrounds, they're the usual hard-packed type of a surface. Not too many bad potholes or bumps or that sort of thing. Just a couple of places where it was a little sketchy where you'd want to be careful pulling the trailer, but mostly pretty good. One of the things about the roads, actually, getting into the park, coming along Highway 89 from the west towards Alliston, the road you've got to turn on to get into the park is not particularly well marked. You don't see any really noticeable Ontario Parks signage or anything like that saying, hey, this is where you got to turn left. So we actually sailed by it the first time and had to turn around in Alliston and come back. And
Yeah.
It was a little more obvious coming the other way from east to west.
Yeah, going the other way, it's like Brigadoon. It just kind of suddenly appears, and it's like, what? So we did get a number of hikes in the park and in the area.
The park has many trails. We used some of them. So there are a couple of shorter trails. There's something called the Resource Trail. There's something called the Little Trail. These were in actually a part of the park that they had closed for now. Not that it would have stopped you from walking to where the trails are. It's on the West Beach area. We did walk around some of the campgrounds, and they have a trail that goes all the way around the outside of the park called the Rainbow Run Trail. And so we probably walked about half of that. They have a lookout trail, which is a kind of a side loop off of the Rainbow Run Trail. So they're both very nice walk in the forest type of trails. There's a little bit of meadows there. The trails are often quite wide and relatively well groomed. There are places certainly where it's rough and you're scrambling over some rocks and roots and that kind of thing. There were some places that were very muddy after the torrential rain on the Wednesday evening.
And I gather they've had some problems with that because there were signs warning of flooding.
And interestingly, the lookout trail goes to a meadow overlooking the park. I was expecting it to climb up a hill and then look out at a vista north of the park. But when you get there, it's actually just a little meadow with a couple of nice park benches, and you can look south over the park. It was a nice little view.
And there's lots of lilac bushes around, which are pretty. We also did some hiking outside of the park. We went to Mono Cliffs Provincial Park, which is not far. And the hiking there is also very nice. The trail's really quite well kept and often wide. And the cliffs themselves, when you get there, they're pretty cool. You walk down some stairs between these cliff faces, and it's pretty neat to see.
So that was some nice hiking. For all of these, I think, between picking through the mud or scrambling up a rock here or there, boots and poles, a good idea. On the trails, there were a couple of places where they had some signage up. So just in terms of park discovery stuff, they have a discovery center. It was closed now. I think it might open up maybe during peak season. They've got some things going on there. But while you're on the trails, there are some places where they've got signs up that tell you things about the local history or some of the natural environment.
Now, the weather, other than when we first got there, I suppose it might have been a lovely time to swim, but Earl Rowe is not known for being a park that's nice to swim at. They used to have a pool in operation. It hasn't been in operation for years. They do have an enormous beach, but the water itself is not great. The bottom is silty, so the water gets kind of mucky, and there are a lot of Canada geese. The Canada geese, there were a few while we were there, but I gather they kind of take over as the summer goes on. If you're super into swimming, this is probably not the park for you.
Fishing, however, reputedly quite good.
Yeah, and on one of our hikes when we were hiking along the Boyne River, which goes through the park as well, we could actually stand there and see large fish just hanging out in the current. So that was pretty neat. Amongst
the places that we didn't get to see in Alliston because everything was mysteriously closed, they have a distillery in town, BT's. They had big signs up that said they were open, but we drove around and it just looked like a bunch of closed industrial buildings.
However, open to who was the question.
Yes.
Anyway, BT's, their specialty is vodka. They grow their own potatoes for this vodka. They also have gin. When we were at the restaurant, we did taste one of their whiskeys, which was not bad.
pretty good. And I think probably a little hard to get your hands on. We did try some other places when we were out at Mono Cliffs. We went to the Mono Center Brewing Company and had a flight there. And pretzel was very good. They had some other baked goods, which...
The pretzel was really good.
Pretzel, very good.
Enjoyed all their beer, too.
Brought some back. We'll do a little sampling with the kids. By kids, we mean, 30-year-old men. And they had some nice baked goods, which we also picked up. And I believe that the baked goods might be supplied by another place that we did drop in on another day, which is Maple Grove Farms in Mulmer, which is nearby. So we went to the Museum of Dufferin when they were open. And that was a pretty cool museum. And interesting to me, first of all, they made us feel very old because they had a display of toys from various decades, and we were looking at it going, well, we had that toy, we had that toy. So, when you go into museums and you see that they are displaying things that you have owned, or that you might still own, it doesn't make you feel that youthful.
Yeah.
That is just south of the town of Mulmer. So we went up into Mulmer, and there's this Maple Grove Farm, which is a spectacular place. They had many interesting prepared foods. They had lots of groceries and some fresh produce. And so, when in the area, check this place out. And we think they're the ones who supply the pretzels and other baked goods for Mono Center Brewing. We had recommended to us a place near there in a town called Violet Hill, Mrs. Mitchell's Casual Fine Dining. And when we were in that neighborhood, they were closed, and we were probably a little too rustic for even casual fine dining.
Yeah, we were a little beyond casual.
Right. We were camping clean. And across the road from there, they had an interesting little shop. Granny Taught Us How and Heidi's Room. Not clear which is which. One little place, lots of interesting stuff. There was one area we couldn't get into because it was all full of the flowers that they had brought inside because there was a frost warning.
But they look nice.
Something else that we should mention, this park from a nature perspective is sort of the giver of pain and delight. Because we had the billowing clouds of pollen.
Yes.
And then there's a part of the Rainbow Run Trail that goes through these little bit of forest and meadows that are just absolutely crammed with trilliums.
Yeah.
More trilliums in one place than I have ever seen.
The forest floor is completely carpeted in them. And mostly white trilliums. We did see some pink ones too, which were also very neat. I've seen red ones before. I'd never seen pink. So that was nice to see.
We stood in the parking lot of the Museum on the Boyne in Alliston. Also closed
on
Tuesday. No such luck there. On the way home, we also stopped at a spot. So this is, most of the way back from Alliston. In Palgrave, we stopped at the Caledon Hills Brew Pub and had a very nice lunch there. So,
I have been there. I realized as soon as I saw it, I realized, this is a place I've been to a few times with my hiking group. It's a converted church, so it's very distinctive. And we had some really great food and really good beer there.
Yeah, so that was also highly recommended to stop there if, when in Palgrave. So because of the challenges with the weather, we were actually encouraged to figure out some things with the Alto. And one particular insight that was very helpful to us is that one of the perennial problems is the carbon monoxide and propane detector, which detects when it's 3 a.m. more than anything.
And this is not just ours. This is a problem with Altos in general.
So if you hang out on the Alto Facebook group, you hear lots of people talking about the carbon monoxide and propane detector. We were expecting, as we have often done, to yank the fuse out at 3 a.m. when the thing goes off with a false alarm. On this trip, what we did is we had the fan running on low, pushing air out. And even with windows closed, because it was just too darn cold, I think that was pulling enough air through the air conditioner and out, that it kept the air fresh inside the trailer. And so not only did we not have a false alarm at 3 in the morning, but also the humidity in the trailer in the morning was quite reasonable, more in the 35-40% range instead of up around 80 or 90, which is where it can sometimes be.
Yeah, and this is the first time that we've woken up to cold weather where the walls and windows haven't been completely covered in condensation. They were totally dry, which was a really nice bonus.
So, pro tip for us for future trips.
Yep, for sure.
We don't have a lot of specific recommendations for sites that you absolutely must take in this campground. What I would say is there are lots of sites that are very big. Many of them are sunny, quite sunny. The privacy generally very good.
The site's generally very good. There's a few stinkers, but in general, most sites are pretty good.
So about half of the sites in the park are serviced. So the sites in Fletcher's Field Campground are serviced. There are 3 other campgrounds on the west side of the park, which are unserviced. We did have a little bit of a look at some of those sites, but this is not the sort of park that I think that we would make a destination and boondock in. But certainly the service sites can be quite good. On the east side of the park, which they call the Riverside Campground, there are some different loops. There's the Salmon Run, which has some very nice unserviced sites. You can get some sites that are right on the river, but again, unserviced there.
Also, if they're on the river, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have direct boat access because the bank is quite high and steep.
Right. But you get Babbling Brook if that's your thing. They have something called Rabbit Loop. Those sites are not as good, I would say, as the Salmon Run sites. And then there's also the Blue Heron Loop. And again, not the best. But in the other part of the Riverside Campground is the Hayden Way. And there is a little side branch loop where there are service sites. There are some service sites on the main road there, and they're right up against the park boundary. You're looking into farmers' fields and all that kind of thing.
Which some people chose to do.
Interestingly, those sites were quite busy. In the Riverside Campground, in the Hayden Way part of that campground, there is a side branch of service sites that seem to have excellent privacy and be quite good quality. And interestingly, there are 2 mini comfort stations and also a full-size comfort station in the Riverside Campground, and they're all part of this Hayden Way. So you're not too close to the park store, but other than that, or in some of the walking trails, I suppose, but other than that, they seem to be quite well provided for.
So overall, despite the kind of odd weather, etc., we had a good time at this park. It is not a spectacular provincial park, but because of the proximity to where we live in Mississauga, we would go back as a good shakedown park. First trip of the season, somewhere close.
Lots of things in the area. We certainly discovered on this trip in particular that if you need to find something to do out of the weather, there's lots of options there. There's some great hiking in the area. There's nice hiking in the park and excellent hiking near to the park. So quite a good spot for a shakedown trip. So there you go. Earl Rowe Provincial Park.
We got the sticker.